Welcome back. Everest and Sered. To the country and people that allowed him to become a hero, Hillary has always been a tireless benefactor. But he's now had to face up to a harsh reality. He just can't keep doing it. The man the Sherpas regard as a god is mortal after all. He's just made a special trip back to Kathmandu to hand over the running of the Himalayan Trust, handing it over to the very people he set out to help. And as he tells Sunday Tonight, he is contemplating what will happen to his legacy, as he puts it, after I've kicked the bucket.
I looked out the window and I said, oh, there's old Everest there. It gives me quite a thrill to see the mountains again. I don't have a deep feeling of sorrow that I can't see them again. I've had so many years being involved with them that I really feel they're part of my life.
Yeah, he's a Superman for us. He's more than a god.
I just like visiting the ordinary people like you. You're a big, strong man.
Me?
Yeah.
So so tell me one thing, okay? I read the newspaper. You pissed on the Everest.
Yeah.
You pissed.
Yeah.
You pissed.
Right.
Today, the God has given me a great chance to meet such a, a great person of this world.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Kathmandu, there's no shortage of gods here, nor is there a shortage of poverty or a richness of human spirit. But this is the city where nearly 50 years ago, Sir Edmund Hillary began that journey to Everest. This was the gateway, as it was the gateway for the last 40 years as he returned to the mountains to work amongst the Sherpa people.
He works from behind a desk now. Up in the mountains, the schools, hospitals and other projects carry on. But this is as close as he gets. Approaching 83, he finally has to consider the inevitable.
My feeling is that when I die, which who knows, may not be too long away, that I don't want any monuments or things like that. But what I really would like would be for the people of New Zealand to continue on with our Himalayan Trust work in the Himalayas. That work has been enormously important to me and to many New Zealanders. For me to kick the bucket and then to know that that work is being continued would be a tremendous satisfaction.
For now, Sir Ed will have to rely on his friends like Angrita Sherpa to continue his work. His health and the dangers of high-altitude sickness no longer allow him to venture into the mountains.
Remember in 1991, and he got so sick, he had to be airlifted out. And suddenly, you realise this man is not invincible.
When he was sick in Kunde, the worries have already built in our minds that he would slowly be not able to come and visit the area in future.
Given Everest is the ultimate rock climb, Sir Edmund Hillary is the ultimate rock star. Today, generations of Nepalis not even born when he climbed to the top of the world want his autograph or to relive the moment.
I heard that you are in $5,
We're on $5
Why $5? Why not $100? See, he's a god. Okay, so,
How do you deal with all of this?
Oh, I enjoy it though, very nice people.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You want to know how much?
They're very friendly towards New Zealanders. And this gentleman asked me to give my regards to Helen Clark.
Yeah, Helen Clark. There's one question I want to know, who was the first on the top? Tenzing or him, This is a big question that everybody wants to ask. Almost every Nepali or every climber, they want to ask. And well,
we reached the summit together.
Yeah, that's the smart answer I can imagine.
One reason for his success and popularity is that Sared has steadfastly avoided the politics of Nepal. But politics are unavoidable in Nepal right now. Mainly in the west, there are almost daily reports of Maoist rebels clashing with government soldiers and police. Hundreds have died.
But the air of uncertainty spread here to Kathmandu as well. Not just because of the chaos that are the Kathmandu streets, but because the Maoist terrorists have reached here into the heart of the capital as well. On this bridge 10 days ago, a bomb exploded. At least 17 injured. People here say some died. What's left of the explosion? Not a lot. But the casualties, not just in terms of those who are injured, but increasing the climate of fear throughout the country.
Capital of one of the poorest nations in the world, Kathmandu exhibits the very problem Sared has fought so hard to remedy in the mountains. Poverty, inadequate housing, lack of schools and hospitals. He can't save the whole country, but he's tried to save what he can. And the work must go on.
The Shepherds have always rather had this feeling that I was going to be around for all time, really. But I'm 82 now, coming on 83, and quite clearly I have to hand over a great deal of the administration.
For 40 years he's done it all himself, raising the money, building the schools, hospitals and bridges, and supervising them through his Himalayan Trust. Now it's time to let go. In the dimly lit trust office, the final moment. In his typical understated way, he hands over his lifetime's work.
If you would raise your hand to acknowledge that you are prepared to undertake this responsibility. If you are to so, would you raise your hand?
A sad day for Sared, but all around him living proof of his success. Himalayan Trust schools rescued them from a life of few options.
So you were the top student here and in the entire country?
I was the top in Nepal in 1970.
If you hadn't got this education, you would still be back up in the hills, yak farming?
Yeah, I will be no dream of this kind of school and this kind of quality education for my life without, Sared and Hillary's support.
Back in the city, life too has changed, but not for the better. It's hard to make a sale.
If you want to buy Premu, I give a very cheap price.
The Maoists are bad for business.
Make no mistake, tourists are still coming here to Nepal and to Kathmandu, but this is Thamel. This is the traditional stop for the backpackers, full of guest houses. Last time I was here, you couldn't move in these streets. It's now just after 8 on a Sunday night, and it's relatively empty. Even the stalls and the shopkeepers are closing up.
The sales pitch hasn't changed. Who can resist a wide-eyed little girl or an even smaller sister? But customers are scarce, and a country with so little can't afford to lose 70% of its tourist market.
Now it's my challenge to introduce a man who needs no introduction. I hope you would join me at this time and giving him a very, very warm welcome.
There are some tourists in town, though, well-heeled, well-travelled and well-disposed to donate heavily to the Himalayan Trust for the privilege of listening to a living legend.
I was born in Auckland, New Zealand, which is a modest city of about 1 million people.
He's not just singing for his supper, he's feeding half the Himalayas. A one-man fundraising machine.
In those days, I was lean and reasonably tough, much slimmer than the formidable figure you see standing here in front of you.
And if it's not to raise money, it's to raise awareness.
Much pleasure in declaring the clinic open.
Thank you, sir. I can take that.
This time, a new spinal unit. Falling from trees while gathering firewood or harvesting animal fodder is a major problem in Nepal.
Well, we wish him every success.
It's almost organised chaos. I mean, people want his time, they want your time. I mean, what do you do about that?
Well, actually, we know it's going to happen, and so we seem to be able to weave our way through. Ed sits down and it sort of happens, and I wander around and have a cup of tea, and it happens to me too. It's very pleasant.
When you think now, I mean, all the trips over the years and all the work with the Trust, okay, and especially in the most recent years, how important has June been to all of that?
Well, she's been extremely useful. I mean, she's a strong-minded lady, and she tells me what to do, and almost invariably I do it.
And is she always right?
She's right most of the time, yes.
On this balmy night in Kathmandu, the Sherpas are gathered, the feast prepared, and another special guest. Saret may have crammed more into one lifetime than many others combined. The Rinpoche of Tengboche Monastery has the luxury of having lived 11 lives.
My goodness, look at all this.
Sir Ed has often called on this reincarnated Lama at Nepal's most significant Buddhist monastery, high in the shadow of Mount Everest. And he too is conscious and sad that Sir Ed won't be back to the mountain.
A lot of Sherpa, the more important Sherpa, will be missing him up in Khumbu. But one has to be realistic. He has to take care of himself. He has enough taken care of for other people. So when it comes to the health, he has to take care of his health. And he's so happy to meet ourselves here.
So you a few days on. I had a very long haul. I really had a marvellous life, many good adventures. I've had 2 wonderful wives. You can't do better than that.
You could have a nice, you know, a nice little monument like one of these.
No, I don't want any monuments, but I would like to think that on my departure, that that our schools and hospitals and things are looked after by New Zealanders.
Well, coming up, the Prime Minister Helen Clark responds to Hillary's challenge and the spiritual mentor to Andrea Yates, who killed all 5 of her children.
Andrea, Rusty, listen, do not let Satan come and steal the understanding of all those things we shared about.